Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Digital Nomad World Weekly Lecture. My name is Becky, and I am here this week with Anna Kochanska, and we're going to talk about how to become a nomad when you have no digital skills. Welcome to Digital Nomad World, Anna.
Thank you, Becky, and hi, everybody.
Yes, I'm so excited to have you here. So Anna, I wanted to ask you first, can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you yourself became a digital nomad?
Sure. So for me, first time I heard the term digital nomad, that was 2015. I was still living in Barcelona. I had a normal office job. I went to some meetup and there was actually Johannes, the founder of the Nomad Cruise, and there were two other nomads. And they were basically talking about their lifestyle and their businesses and how they live. I thought that the concept was amazing. But then I also realized that most of the people that by the time were nomads, they were other programmers. Perhaps they work in digital marketing, or they had their own business. So there was really, the time at least, 70–80% of the community was people in IT. So then I thought well, so this is amazing. I would love to do that, but I don't have any digital skills. I cannot code. I know nothing about digital marketing. I can do that. And so there is first thing, I think it's important to notice in that there was a limiting belief, right? So I had that mindset that was limiting me. I thought if I'm not doing any of these three, then that's it, I can be nomad. And I didn't really do anything for 2 years about that. I still work the office job. Then I moved to Lisbon because even if I couldn't become a nomad, I still wanted to make some change in my life. And what helped me a lot was actually joining the community. In Lisbon, it happens to be a huge nomad community, maybe even the biggest in the world, but for sure the biggest in Europe. And then suddenly, I went to those meetups and I realized that there was 100, 200 people doing different things. And I saw whoa, people became really creative. It's not like everybody is a programmer or designer. Some people become coaches. Some people started consulting. Some people develop special skills, maybe not even so common, to be able to have that remote life. So people started running blogs, really different things. So then I thought well, so maybe I can also think about something not so common that I could do. I at the time didn't know what that could be, but the fact that there were so many people doing that helped me already think, whoa, this is possible then for me too, right? And how it really started in practice is because I actually asked, I could say found a remote job, but the job was not really remote. The job was a normal standard job, but I told the company I would like to work remotely. And I negotiated with them. That was 2017. And I became the first person in that company to work remotely. So that's because I asked, right? So this is also, again, another thing that people sometimes think, if the job is not remote, then there is nothing to do. And you just have to leave that job and go to look for another job. But sometimes you can negotiate. Some companies, just nobody asked before. But maybe if you start that conversation, if you are still good candidate, you can open the line of communication and maybe you reach to some agreement. So I manage and we signed the contract, but even the confidence to ask for that in that time, long before COVID, came from the fact that I saw so many people working remotely and being nomads. And in my mind, by the time, because I was attending those meetups in Digital Nomads Lisbon community. So in my mind, the working remotely was possible. And that's why I asked, right? So there was all these steps I did to arrive to that point. And then I still think, because you can, of course, nowadays to become a nomad, you can find other remote job, or you can start freelancing, or you can start your own business, right? There are these three ways. But definitely the easiest way nowadays to start is to find a remote job. That's just the fastest way. Then, of course, if you want to become freelancer, if you have certain skills, you can market them. If you don't have them, you can acquire them first. I guess we can talk about that more, or you can open your own business. But like the easiest way and the fastest. And now, because of the COVID, many more companies are open to remote work, so that become even easier to do in terms of how someone can literally start next month.
Wow. So what a journey. I think you made those two really key points. Like, first of all, you put yourself in an environment where there are a lot of like-minded people, and then you asked, like you said. So I want to ask if you remember specifically how you went about asking. Did you go personally up to a manager, or had you not met them yet and you just asked before you even signed the contract and wrote an email? And how did you ask? Because I think, like you said, a lot of people are nervous about that, or they don't think it's possible.
So if it's a new job, I actually would start that because I see no point in engaging in any conversation in recruitment without being sure that the job can be remote. So for me, I just found like an interesting position. They posted that in a group for startups. And I just messaged the person that posted that and say like, hey, this looks like an interesting vacancy. So where is that job actually? And there is a possibility to work remotely. And the person replied like, oh, hi, Anna, are you interested for yourself or for someone else? So again, I reinforce like I'm saying, and they also replied, so well, the job is actually thought to be in office. Are you interested? And then I replied again like, well, it looks like very interesting job, but I'm not ready to move to Kiev right now. So can that be done remote? So at the very, very beginning. And, you know, I had nothing to lose. And actually, to be honest, I thought they're going to say like, no, well, that's 2017, right? Nobody thought about that yet. But they actually replied like, okay, let's talk about it. And that's how it started. Then I had to also help, you know, because then at some point, HR person told me, you know, I have not done that before, so I need your help. How do we even sign a contract? Like, where are you gonna pay the taxes, right? So, and I have to engage in that process and figure out myself what I'm gonna do. Because at that time, but even now, if you want to be fully remote, then in very few companies you can be as an employee. A lot of people actually, they have these contractor contracts, right? So it's like kind of B2B, and they hire you and then maybe they even sub-hire you, which is what happened to me. But the contract is different than employee contract, because employee contracts comes with benefits, but then it also limits you in many ways. One of them being, of course, not location independent. So that's also about what kind of contract you sign. But I started that conversation at the very beginning. If I would still like, you know, sometimes I don't look for a job anymore. I moved actually into consulting myself, but I'm still sometimes contracted by people, by agencies. And sometimes they just don't mention anything. So you don't really understand if collaboration or consultancy is in person or remote. So I always ask at the beginning, because I'm not even willing to engage in any kind of interviews if we are not set that this is, maybe they can say, let's talk about it, or we are open, then we can talk, but they has to be at least open. If they are not open and set, then I don't see a point, you know, to engage that. I don't think that if you start the conversation then thinking that you're gonna come to the office and then in the last moment you say like, well, but can we do remotely, then you basically, you know, the expectations from their side will be broken. So that has to be, for me, set at the beginning. And I do think that some people nowadays, like they do have jobs, so not necessarily they have to leave the job. Sometimes the jobs that you had, and maybe at the moment they are in office or hybrids, sometimes you can negotiate. So if someone has the job already, I would first try to negotiate before leaving. I know many people are like, the job is not remote, my company is like that, I need to look for something else. But just ask first and open that communication. Let's see what happens. I would just like, you know, start small. If, for instance, I'm a valuable employee for the company, I would just go to manager and, you know, say, like, you know, this month I would try to ask to to work from home, like for instance, 1 month. I wouldn't even say that I'm going to Africa or Thailand, just work from home 1 month, right? We need to make small steps because we have to change the mindset. If we have managers or bosses or the companies that are not ready, and changing the mindset is a process. So we also have to understand that just because we didn't receive a yes right away, it doesn't mean we're not gonna get there. Maybe just people need more time. You have to be really persistent and strong, and you have to have good arguments. And then, of course, you have that month if they agree, right? After the month, you sit together, you review, you ask them if they are happy, if that works for them, if you have to be clear also what time you will be available, if they have something urgent, how they gonna contact you, right? If you by any way work remotely by COVID, you should use that argument. A lot of time, the argument will be, well, but then what if we have meetings? I cannot see how many hours you work. So I would always redirect that conversation towards results, right? So it's not about how many hours you work, but what you achieve during that hour. So every time someone would ask me like, oh, but like, so can you log your hours or whatever? You can of course log your hours, but I would still highlight again, like, this is what I did this week. This is what I did today. These are the results, because that's what really speaks, right? And I do think that some people and some managers can be slowly, reconducted, like they can change their approach. It may not happen like right away, but eventually it may happen. And some jobs are worth keeping if that happens. If not, and you really tried and you repeat it and it still didn't work, then I would start to look for something else if being a nomad is a priority.
Thank you for that really detailed explanation of how to do that, because I think that is such an obstacle for so many people. And it might be the way they can start being remote, even if they, like you had talked about earlier, don't have digital skills. And that's actually what I want to talk about now, because I know that we'd mentioned this at the beginning. So let's say somebody isn't a coder, somebody doesn't have those skills that they think most remote workers have. What skills are important for like becoming a digital nomad, and maybe how can we acquire these digital skills?
Right. So I think that, after the COVID, the scenario changed for better. And I do think that nowadays you don't need any special digital skills to be a nomad if you are happy with having a job, with having being an employee, right? Because if you want to be freelancer, then of course you need to acquire the skills that will allow you to freelance. But for instance, for finding a remote job, it's not that much anymore about having digital skills, but about having the skills that are in demand, right? So it can be really any skill that people are looking for. And for instance, like yesterday, I had a conversation with some IT company. They were looking for cyber security experts, right? So it's not like necessarily coding or programming or design anymore, but they just like advanced IT skills, right? And then it can be so many things like that. I think that any job that's done in corporation nowadays can be done remotely. Any management, finance, sales, like a lot of people still think that you have to see a person face to face if it's an important sale, but that's just the mindset. So a lot of that, it comes to you being actually valuable employee on the market first, like, being able to have a good job. And if it's a corporate job, then it's only about the mindset, if that job can be done remotely or not, and finding the right company. Of course, there are like still jobs, if you are a doctor or dentist, we still don't have technology for that to done that remotely. But most of the jobs nowadays, like if you want to be a manager, product manager, right? Or anything in IT, but also anything in finance, procurement, like, why not? There is really no reason. Any job that's done on laptop with software, where you communicate over email or you call people, that can be done basically from anywhere. So for me nowadays, like the conversation would be first about having the skills to actually find the job in this corporate, let's say, environment, but any job, not necessarily related, to technology. And that will allow you already, because the better you become, the stronger you have also power in negotiation, right? Like when you are very valuable, especially specialist in something, then even if the job is not remote, you can turn it into remote because they really want you and they need you. So it's about having that competitive advantage of, having something that not everybody has. And there are, of course, things to reach that. Like, if we look what's right now most in demand, it is some professions in IT, of course, are very much in demand. But also, for instance, languages can help you with that. English is, of course, a given, so no benefits for knowing English. But for instance, for me, it helped knowing Spanish. I was fluent in Spanish by the time. Spanish or German can really help you. French, I think, also can help you, because then if there are more people that have certain skills, but then you can also talk in the language of the company, of the employee, or especially clients, that's a big one, then you have competitive advantage, right? Like the most in demands nowadays, I would also say like good communication skills. That's gonna help you like with lots of jobs, particularly like nowadays we have to communicate online, right? So being good at writing, like writing good emails or being able to run meeting effectively, that's also gonna help you. And I would also say networking, because a lot of good jobs, they are not even being advertised anywhere. Like you don't find them on job boards because they happen in conversation. They are offered to people that we trust. So building that network and building that trust, especially on the biggest challenge for companies hiring, is that if they never gonna met you, then they have trust your online profile. And whatever is written there, like recommendation, who you are connected to, who you ever work with, but also what you do. It's not only where you work, but what kind of people are in your network. If those people can vote for you, that's the trust you are building. And having that before you need that, so you have, like, for instance, good LinkedIn profile, or maybe you have your own website and there you have like some portfolio of what you did, depending what skills you are. Maybe you're a copywriter or designer, you can put there something that would be just like a proof that you spend some time on something and you know how to do something. And sometimes content on social media, I think it's also a good way to find a job or to find opportunities, because if you, for instance, position yourself as an expert in certain area, and it doesn't has to be, because people think about that a lot. Well, my skills are not necessarily something I can promote, because that's what designer can post something that they design and that's it. But how, for instance, I can promote myself if I'm accountant, right? Or finance person, and maybe how, right? But for instance, content production, like on LinkedIn, is also very valuable, because you can just write your insight about your industry, about the company, about what you think, about good practices, and people gonna notice, like people gonna follow you, and then you build authority. And I would do that like much before I even look for any job or for any clients. I would just do that on a regular basis, because then it can even happen. It happened to me, like clients reaching out to me over LinkedIn, and like, you want to be in the position when you run to them, but they come to you and ask you because they see you as an expert, right? So you can also create a job sometimes, not necessarily find it and look for it, but it allow people to come to you if you show them like what you are good at.
I think that is such valuable advice. I also have a friend I know who was basically headhunted on LinkedIn, and she still has that job and just got her contract extended. So yeah, it works. And she was regularly posting, like you said, on LinkedIn. So I have another related question, but I think it's the next step after you would find this remote job. How can you kind of find stability with your income? I guess it's different if you become an employee and you get the contract signed, but I think a lot of people trying to find remote jobs are getting little clients at the beginning. How can we find that stability when we're transitioning to the remote life?
Right. So because it may be a bit tricky if you want to build a business, even like freelancing, and have like several clients and at the same time start like traveling. So then, you don't really know how much income you're gonna have. You don't really know what you can do. So that can be risky. I think I would try to get like first clients. You at least have few clients, or you have like regular influx of clients, like new people come to you. You have more or less an idea how much you can earn per month, and only then start to travel. Maybe you have to be like building freelance business for a few months and staying in one place, or at least staying in a very affordable destination. So then you reduce your expenses, right? Because you are still not sure about your income. And there are destinations like that, like Bansko in Bulgaria. I'm right now in Mostar in Bosnia and Herzegovina, very affordable destination too. You can literally live for less than 500 euros per month. So, you know, if you are not sure how much you're gonna earn, then you better reduce your expenses. And I would also recommend like having some savings, maybe at least for a few months. Like if you start nomad life, then you have you know, some money put aside if something happens, or maybe like, you know, the client doesn't pay you, because that can happen as well, right? Or they pay you but they are delayed, that can also happen. Or maybe someone broke the contract, you know, things can happen. So if you have like a few thousand euros at least, being able to live for a few months, and you have some clients already with possible prospect for more clients, then I would slowly start to move. But maybe I wouldn't move like if you don't have any job, right? You don't have savings and you just got like 1 or 2 clients, that's risky. So if you want to do that, some people can do that, but then I would maybe do something else. If I have only 2 clients and I'm not sure what's gonna happen next, maybe I would do something like work away, where you can go, for instance, and have your you know, accommodation paid, and then you volunteer for a few hours. So then you at least don't have that expenses, and then if some clients pay you, you have some additional budget. So you have to really adapt to your situation, and just start progressively, right? It doesn't has to be like some people maybe they are so enthusiastic that they would like to start tomorrow, but it's good to plan a little bit for those few months. If you just starting like the business of freelancing, then, you know, like slowly think what happens and putting some safety, like financial safety in place.
I think that is a really great recommendation. And even at Workaway, I think you could meet people there who might be also doing Workaway or that are running that Workaway site, and you might get work from them.
Absolutely, absolutely. So networking becomes, you know, like the cycle that aliments itself, right? Like you are around other people that are doing something similar. You are also around nomad communities, which I think is again valuable, because maybe you're still figuring out your way, but there are people that may be more ahead of you in that journey, and maybe they need some help. You know, I did know people that find some job because they went to a meetup literally, and then there were people like, I'm looking for someone to do, I don't know, like you know, to help me with video production, or I'm looking for a designer, or, you know, copywriting. So I'm looking, you know, like small jobs that can help you, right? And it happens sometimes so easily. Why they offer it? Because they met you in person, you made a good impression, right? And you also talked about what you are looking for, like you showed them, I'm doing this and I'm looking to build that, and I have something I started already. So it's also like sometimes about that bit of luck, but you are being prepared, like you are looking for that luck, not just hoping that it happens, but like, you know, opening possibilities.
Yes, and I think also along with Workaway, you can find places to stay with other digital nomads. Maybe if you're just getting started I know Lisbon now is a little bit more expensive, but as you said, a great place to meet other like-minded nomads. So I'm sure there's opportunities there too to share a room, things like that, to keep those expenses down while you're looking for those first jobs.
Absolutely.
I am wondering if you have any advice if somebody does like think, okay, I need digital skills, I want to start coding or I want to start doing IT to get like the best chance for the best jobs out there. Do you have any place that you'd recommend that they go to learn these things?
So there is amazing platform that's Nomad Skillshare, and it's run by nomads, right? And Evan has an amazing mission, like to give back to community. They have lots of skill. Nomads teach other nomads. Then there is also one which I did myself like long time in the past. This is for women that wants to learn programming, and it's called She Codes.io. And it also has the mission to help bring more women into IT. They absolutely the best quality, and they also, a lot of people recommend that, very interesting program. So but that's especially for women. And I would also say for people, like, definitely attend like all these nomad conferences. That's gonna open like your eyes really for all the possibilities, for what you can do. Maybe you haven't thought about something, but like the conferences also teach you what people do. They share their resources. So if someone is a beginner, really any bigger conference will make it. Like, in Bansko or in Nomad Base, any conference that's organized, they can just join and go and see there. Join online communities, of course. Then, of course, podcasts too. That's such a valuable source of information. People sharing their learnings and giving tips, right? Like this one, Digital Nomad Words.
Yes.
But there are also a few more, of course, that people can listen to. The Maverick Show, for instance, I like that one. That remote life is a very good one. Digital Nomads Daily, they share basically the nomad life, like without sugarcoating it, how it really is. So you can have a good glance. And for people that want to invest, the Nomad Capitalist, it's a good one. They teach you also, about finances, because the location independence is first level of freedom, but ultimate level of freedom is financial independence.
Yes, I also follow the Nomad Capitalist. These are such great places to go. Thank you so much, Anna. You have, I know, such a deep well of advice and so much that you've learned over these past years. Do you have any final advice for people looking to get into this remote work lifestyle?
So for really the first thing, the mindset, sometimes you will need to think outside of the box. If you don't have any tradition, because if someone can just program, that's more or less easy. If not, maybe you will need to think about a little bit about outside the box. Maybe you will need to negotiate. That's why communication skills will come in handy. I would definitely join the nomad communities. Some people then eventually they may travel alone. Maybe they not necessarily want to be always connected to those communities. But at the beginning, I think it's very, very valuable, even to change the way you think, to open you to new possibilities. Or as I said, I literally seen people finding like clients just because they joined the community. And that's when you are starting, I think it's very valuable. So there is some, a church. Church bells.
Oh, no problem. Thank you so much, Anna. This has been so helpful for so many people, I think, that want to get into this lifestyle. And as we've seen too, we haven't mentioned it, but it's more important than ever, I think, to be able to move with your job, because there's so many things happening around the world that are unexpected, and you may need to move your physical location. And I think it's really helpful to already be in this remote work world.
Absolutely.
Well, if people want to follow you or find out more about what you do, where can they go?
So I post a lot on my LinkedIn. So it's just Anna Maria Kochanska. People can connect with me on LinkedIn or my Facebook, on my Instagram. I do share about destination where I travel, remote work tips, and generally about nomad life inside. So I'm happy to connect with everybody. And if someone also has more questions, then you can find me there.
Thank you so much. And I hope you have a great time in Bosnia. And I hope to meet you soon in person.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Ciao.
Ciao.